Okay, we're back, ready to finish the photo viewer. We need to go ahead now and create some buttons and then add some actions to make our buttons actually work so we can flip through this photo viewer page by page. So first thing I'm going to do is I want to add a new layer above captions. I'm going to call that my navigation layer. And I want you to watch carefully as I do this. Right now my timeline is pretty crowded. I don't have any extra room, so when I add a new layer, click that little plus sign on the piece of paper, or you can right click and do it. It looks like nothing happened. So sometimes students start to click multiple times. What you have to do is just increase the area of your timeline. You see how I did that? I just grabbed put your cursor right in that blue line there. Increase a little bit, and now you can see that a new layer was added. It's called layer 5. I'll double click into it and call it navigation, or buttons, whatever you want to call it. And as we remember from before, let's be careful. I don't want to accidentally put my button in the caption layer, so I'm going to lock that caption layer down. Now your caption layer, you're going to actually have put captions in there. I skipped that. So here I have, I've got my captions photo background all locked down. I've got my navigation layer opened up. I've got a keyframe in frame number 1. I'm going to click into that, make sure I'm there. And now I want to create a couple buttons. Now I'm going to do this a little different. There's two ways you could. You could go ahead and draw your button ahead of time on the stage. Once you drew it, then convert it into a button, F8 it. Or you can just start from scratch by going up to Insert New Symbol. And I'm going to make it a button. I'm going to call this forward, the forward button. Say OK. And by doing it that way, Insert New Symbol, I instantly go into the editing environment of the button. Look at my library. If your library is closed, F11 opens your library, and you should see that button right there, forward. I'm right inside of it. So I'm going to draw my button here. I'm going to use a couple layers for this button. I'm going to have a triangle layer. Whoa. And I'm going to have beneath that oval. And I'm going to do this pretty quick. So I'm going to do it with a white stroke. I'm going to do kind of an orangey fill, maybe a stroke of 2. You're not going to be able to see the stroke on this white on white, but you'll see it later when you put it on your page. And I'm just going to drop a couple points, use my shift key to make it perfectly straight. Whoa, shift key off right here. And double click to stop it. Now using your black arrow, you might want to change the angle a little bit. Can't really change that one, maybe. That's not bad. And now I'm going to use my oval tool, and I'm going to use this one with a kind of a dark blue. And maybe I'll do a black or gray edge to it. Oh, I made a mistake. The mistake I made is I kept drawing this on the oval layer. I actually didn't want that there, so I'm going to Control Z that. I'm going to take this triangle, cut it out, and put it up in the triangle layer. Totally forgot that. Alright, good. Now the triangle's in the triangle layer, the oval's is going to go in the oval layer. So make sure you do that, otherwise they'll interact with each other. Yeah, that looks kind of cool. So I've got my upstate on my button, that's what it's going to look like. And now I'm going to go over to the overstate, and I'm going to insert in a keyframe. That brings the triangle forward. I can just click it and give it a new color, green. Insert in my oval, insert a keyframe, and I think I'll keep that color the same. So when I hover over it, it turns green. Then when I click down on it, insert a keyframe, insert a keyframe. I want something to maybe a little special to happen. One thing to do is to kind of make the button squish so it gets bigger. So I'm going to take that oval and I'm going to increase the width by 10 pixels and the height by 10 pixels. And unfortunately I did not have the edge selected when I did that. I'll reposition that a little bit. And then the triangle, I'm going to double click this time, get the inside and the outside selected. And I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to make that thing get smaller. So I'm going to bring the width down to 58 and the height down to 40. And then I'll move that around a little bit. So Button will look like it's getting squished. And the hit state I don't need to worry about because I have all this fill. All that fill will define the hotspot. So that's my forward button. And I come back over to scene 1. I can see my forward button right here in the library. Click into navigation, frame number 1, so I know where I am. And I'm going to grab that and just drag it out onto the stage. And there's my button. Now if you think it's a little too big, just use your free transform tool and we can make it a little bit smaller. Whoa. I'm going to hold down my shift key when I do that. I'm going to zoom up 200% so I can do a better job. There, that's better. Now, to make your backward button, rather than redrawing all that, I'm going to just simply duplicate this button. And I don't want to copy and paste it out on the stage. That's just going to make two of the same thing. You need an entirely new button. So I'm going to come to my library and I'm going to right click and I'm going to duplicate this symbol inside the library. It's different than duplicating on stage. If I just copy and paste it on stage, it's really going to be the same button but just two different instances of the same thing. I want a brand new button, so I'm going to go to the library, I'm going to duplicate it here and I'm going to call it backward. And once again, it's a button. Now I have a forward and a backward button. They're both identical. Double click into the back button and now let's just flip it. Now this is the triangle is what needs to be flipped. So I'm just going to double click on it. Modify, transform, flip it on the horizontal axis or vertical axis? I think vertical. We'll see. I guess not. Modify, transform, flip, horizontal. There you go. And then I'll go over to this one and I will modify, transform, flip it. Modify, transform, flip it. Now of course if you're making a different style button, looks completely different than mine, do whatever style you want. You don't have to, you can take more time with yours. I'll go back to the scene, go back out to show all. I'll take that back button, drop it on, and I'll have to decrease it a bit. Use my free transform tool, shrink it down just a little bit. Okay, now let's get a little preview of how these buttons look. Remember to go to Control, Enable Simple Buttons. It turns green. Click it. Nah, not bad. Not bad. Alright, buttons are done. And the cool thing about this is if you look at your timeline, you see there's a keyframe in number 1 of the navigation layer, and then there's a frame in layer 5. And what that causes Flash to do is take whatever's in frame 1 and put it in to all the other frames. So I like that because I don't have to keep making buttons over and over again. I just make them once and then Flash automatically puts them in all the other frames for you. You can see them there. So that's perfect. Now I need to actually make the buttons do something. I need to program them. That's going to be in this layer, this panel right above properties. You probably haven't even noticed it. It's called actions. And right now it says actions-frame because right now I have my frame number 1 selected. You can put actions on frames or on buttons. To put on a button, we need to actually click a button. So I'm going to turn off my Enable Simple Buttons so I can select it, come down and click the forward button so it's highlighted. Now I go to, now look at it, it says actions-button. Open that up and yours will probably look like this. I mean, nothing's been done yet. So you have lots of different choices. I don't even know what all of them do, but I know if we want to do an action, we're going to go into action, click it once. We're going to go into movie control. We're controlling our movie, and we have several options: go to, on, play, stop. What we want for this button is we want to go forward, so it's go to, because we want to go to the next frame. So we click on go to, and it's creating the computer script for you. On, release, go to, and play. You don't have to know that language. Instead, you can use the little menu up here, the drop downs. You get several choices. Notice this: go to and play, go to and stop. You can have it go to a certain frame number, so if you're making a different type of project, you could have it click on a button and go to frame 10. And once it got to frame 10, it could keep playing, or it could go to frame 10 and stop. And there might be another button there that you could go into frame 11 or 12. For this one, we don't want it to just go to and play. We don't want to go to play frame 2, for example, because then it would just go to 2, and then it would just keep playing and go to 3, 4, 5. We also don't want it to say go to and stop at 2, because then it would go to 2 and it would just stop and would stay there. There's actually a special command that we want that if you go into type, you'll see it. Instead of specifying a frame number, you can just say next frame. So wherever you are in your video or your movie, it doesn't matter if you're in frame 1 or frame 3, it always, when you click on that button, it's just going to go to the next frame and it's going to stop. So that's all. It's very simple. On release, next frame. You don't have to save it, you just minimize it, it's there. Same thing for this guy, except in reverse. Actions, button, open that up, go to, instead of frame number, previous frames, going backwards. And that's your 2 buttons. Now, if we were to look at this movie, Control Enter, previews it, it just keeps playing and playing and playing until you press a button. That's causes it to stop. And then I can go to the next frame, and I can go back, forward. So there's one piece missing to our puzzle. Close the preview by hitting the little X. And that is to get this movie to stop playing when you first start it. And so if you look at our little hints here, we have one more layer called an action layer. And with a single keyframe, and there's a little letter A on top of it. We're going to go ahead and do that now. We're going to add a new layer. And by tradition, Flash always has you put the action layer on top. It doesn't have to be. The action layer can be anywhere you want it. So I make an action layer. Let's lock down navigation. Not using it. And there's my little keyframe. And what I'm going to do is select that frame number 1. Come down where it says Actions Frame. Not a button now, it's a frame. Open that up. And look at my choices under Actions Movie Control. Stop. I want the movie, when it gets that command on frame number 1, an action layer is going to read that command stop, and the Flash file will stop right there, and it'll just sit there and wait. Let's Control Enter and check it. There it is. Goes to frame number 1, stops, sits and waits, hover on a button, click it, goes to the next frame, goes to the next frame. And that is it. Perfect. So you've got your first photo viewer done. Hopefully you're going to make yours look a lot better than mine. Take some time with your buttons, your navigation. I'm going to save this file now, and then I'm going to export it. Export movie. Make it a SWF. Call it Photo Viewer. You'll notice you already have one in there called Photo Viewer, because when you hit Control Enter and do a preview of your movie, basically what Flash does is it generates a SWF file. So every time you hit Control Enter, it's actually making a preview for you, making a movie for you. But I like to do it again just to make sure it's the latest version. So I export it out, replace it, sure, okay, done. Now I'm going to come over to Dreamweaver and open up a blank page, and I will go ahead and drop that in and link it up and all that good stuff. And you should be able to handle that. Anybody have any questions, let me know. Good luck.